it's a Ulutas from Akbank, and also from Ripple, Marjan, Delatinne for a fireside chat on this panel. So I cannot see you, Marjan. Maybe if you could bring her here quickly. So do you have the microphone? So can we have the headset? Okay. I think she must be on her way. Or it could be. So we can be on stage. I think we can start as Marjan is on her way. So I prepared the first question for her, but it seems like you're going to take the first question.
It's all right.
So we were talking about blockchain, new technologies, and traditional banks, Akbank. So
yes.
Let's start with Akbank, because I was just going to ask, what is Ripple? What is Ripple doing? So that's an unnecessary question for Akbank, but I think the necessary question is, what is Akbank doing in the technology, the age of technology, in the age of blockchain and these kind of services? So what is their approach towards those technologies?
I think the whole story about banking, I think earlier also speakers very well said it. The whole money, and what is money anyway, is a virtual thing, right? And because we didn't have the means, we tried to create physical channels, representation, and forms for money or value. And now that we are living in a digital age, although a bit late, we are finding out more and more that for a virtual thing, you don't need any physical, neither a channel nor a representation, and everything is changing its structure. And Marjan comes in. I'm keeping them busy while you're away. Okay, so from Akbank's point of view, what we are doing as one of the most valuable banks and largest banks in Turkey, we strictly focused on cutting what is not necessary and focusing on what is truly necessary. And obviously, blockchain comes out as one of the key enablers of that, right? Because blockchain at the end is a trust chain, and if we need blockchain, is a question of what is the cost of trust in our daily business. And in banking, in financial services, cost of trust is pretty high. To assure the trust is a pretty costly thing, starting from KYC to AML and everything you can imagine in transfers. And one critical area that is creating unfair charges and costs was international fund transfers. And nobody can explain truly why this is happening, why they are so costly and so miserable in shape, because it's taking sometimes a couple days to send the money. Nobody knows where your money is unless you really dig in and understand. Nobody even can commit to the cost before you do the transfer. It's just so miserable, the whole thing. And Ripple, as a great partner in that, came up with this technology. So we said, why not? We need to definitely look into that, because it's a great opportunity for a bank like Akbank, where we have lots of commercial clients who are dealing with international trade, who needs to send money, receive money, and have this relation.
Maybe you should pause there, because I'm going to come to that point. So that's the point where you cooperate with Ripple. So as a traditional bank, you're trying to change things to adapt them to your bank. So here comes a Ripple, as far as I can guess. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit about Ripple. I think many of the people in the Southern know what is Ripple, what are you basically doing? I think it works.
It works, yes. So, hello everybody, and sorry for this delay. My name is Marjan Delatinne. I joined Ripple actually 10 months ago, and I used to work for Swift for more than a decade. And my last assignment was, I was responsible for GPI, that I'm sure you have heard about it. Changing the cross-border or transaction banking systems. Now coming back to Ripple, because I joined Ripple to disrupt, and I think that's the main objective of the Ripple. Ripple is a blockchain company. The vision of the Ripple is to create an ecosystem with a mission that we have, which is creating an internet of value. So when we look at the current landscape of exchanging data, which is happening over internet in a matter of seconds, payment still is going through a long-term cycle, 3 to 5 days for a simple cross-border transaction. So our vision, or the Ripple vision, is really making the payment, the transfer of the cross-border, as smooth as possible than the exchange of the data today over internet. That's in a nutshell what we are doing.
Okay, let's literally carry on with Ripple, because for me, I'm really curious to know what Ripple really is doing, because I'm reading many things about, just let me call the names, Ripple, XRP,
Yes.
all those protocols. So what are they?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, by the way, because there are lots of confusion about how these different elements get together in a kind of business model. So let's put it very simple. Ripple is, as I mentioned, this is a company, okay? XRP is a native asset that was even created before Ripple, and it was gifted to the Ripple for the cross-border payment. So XRP was really, the design of the XRP was to ensure that this could be used as a liquidity management tool in order to make cross-border transactions. Okay. Now a bit about the history of Ripple. Ripple started in 2012, and the first product was really using the digital asset, which is the XRP, with the consensus protocol. But this was not, the banks were not yet ready to really embrace this, because this was a big shift for a bank, that it is highly dependent on the regulation to take an asset that it is not even possible to be part of the balance sheet. As a result of that, Ripple has created a new product, which is called Interledger Protocol. And this Interledger Protocol is basically exchanging value based on a fiat currencies. So when we are talking now about Ripple and the banks that probably you hear about them, the adoption is no longer really using digital assets. It's using cross-border fiat currencies and exchanging values in an instant payment basis. We do have, of course, other products, and we see this take up now, especially with the payment providers, because obviously they are shorter in terms of the, let's say, capital, and the cost of still settling cross-border is very expensive. So they use the XRP, or our native digital asset, as a bridge currency to diminish actually the cost of the cross-border. But the banks today, they use Ripple for fiat currencies. That, I think, is very important to understand.
Okay, thank you. So there's a cooperation between two brands, Ripple and Akbank. So you need global remittances, and I think that part, Ripple is coming to the game. So what are you cooperating about? So what does that mean for Akbank?
Actually, as I said, we are keen on looking into areas where there is too much inefficiency and cost of trust is too much. So Ripple came up as a technology company to solve for that, right? And this is our kind of way of differentiating ourselves against our local competitors, or bringing our customers in Turkey some better ways of serving them, faster, cheaper, easier, more transparent. So that relationship popped up as part of that. Ripple already had started. Our experience is like almost 1 year old now. We have started making transfers between our entity in Germany and Turkey, and now we are adding additional banks and talking to them and moving to we are finding actually that make it faster for them.
So what are the benefits if you compare with the past, just before you start with Ripple, and how could it react with regulation in Turkey? Is there any problem? Or
we worked on this with regulation in Turkey, and they were very open-minded, honestly. With that, it took us a couple meetings to discuss the technology and the means behind it. What Marjan has said was very important in that discussions. This is not leveraging XRP as a currency. That's a very different thing. So this is not about crypto assets or cryptocurrency. It's the technology, because it's basically consensus-based network. So you don't necessarily, in a closed network, you don't need a crypto asset in between to be traded across. So when we explained this to the local regulator was very much understanding this, and so it was very, very well passing through.
What are the benefits from a customer-wise?
From customer's point of view, it's very easy. I don't know, I mean, many people here should have done an international money transfer in their lives. First of all, speed. It's less than 8 seconds. Today, it's like less than 8 seconds is pretty much this. So you send the money from here to that point in 8 seconds is great. Compared to what is today, can go up to 4 or 5 days if you send money to one other location in the globe. The cost, pretty much the cost is, there's very little about network cost, almost nothing. The cost is far less in reality, and that will be reflected to the customer. And I think where is my money is not anymore a question, because in most cases, especially large businesses are sending money overseas. They're trying to track the money. Recipient is trying to say, where is the money? Is it coming? It's not coming. Where is it? You know, there's lots of intermediaries in between that is adding to the cost and traceability of the problems to the traceability of the event. SWIFT has been a great organization to solve for that in the past, but I think that's like they're kind of behind now on the story, clearly.
I see. So Akbank is one of your partners or customers, as you would like to mention. So who are your customers? What's your customer base, and where is that going in that manner?
Well, actually, we have more than 100 banks who have joined, 100 financial institutions, but majorly, I should say, 90% are banks, and we do have now payment service provider as well joining the network. So they are worldwide, because at the end, this is about trades and this is about cross-border transactions. We see a lot of traction, of course, in EMEA, in Europe in general, I should say, and in APAC. But it's always based on a use case, and I think that was also the scope of the collaboration that we established with Akbank, is what a bank wants to achieve, actually, out of this technology, because blockchain is a technology only, and this is not changing the customer experience alone. It's going to be at the service of the bank and the vision of the bank, how they want to use this technology. So I think that's has been a very important discussion with Akbank and the vision of Akbank in terms of how they want to really move forward the digital roadmap. So you have this discussion with large banks such as Santander, Standard Chartered, and also some other banks that probably I cannot mention the names, but clearly 2017 for us was moving to production. So we are no longer talking about proof of concept or piloting. Our network is live, and we are exchanging transaction with a value of close to $1 billion USD. So I think that's very important. This is a trust that the banks that are part of our network are putting on that. And this is, of course, it's early stage. Not in a, let's say, average, we sign banks or PSP per week.
So what about the future? So where is that going? I mean, blockchain technology and crypto, where is that going?
Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I can start. I think as a technology, blockchain is getting tested, right, with lots of new concepts, and blockchain is obviously has opened a new way of working. As I said, it's a matter of the cost of trust. Anything like earlier presenter, Mr. Arif, it's a matter of cost of trust, right? There's lots of chain of trust, and then it's very costly, time-consuming, and so on and so forth. So blockchain, I think, is going to prevail, keep growing, keep bringing new areas. Obviously, number one sector it will influence or impact is financial services, clearly, because it's already virtual. Money is virtual, so that's where blockchain fits very well, and trust is important. And I think this type of relationship between Ripple and Akbank is a great example how a strong fintech can come and bring value at a massive size and quantity to the market through the banks, and make a change in the way people leverage financial services. So from my point of view, I mean, as Akbank, we are working on 3 main areas of blockchain. Number one area we already discussed. The second area is international trade finance, which is also very cumbersome, costly, time-taking, painstaking. So we are also working on that in different consortiums. We are testing ideas. The third area is digital identity. And I heard KYC earlier, AML. Digital identity is exactly what the world needs, the countries need, because, I mean, I have this card, right? This is my Turkish national ID. I have also another national ID and etc. And this is, it has a chip on it. So we believe this is top technology. It's just useless. It's physical. And it has nothing to do with this today's digital customer experience. You don't need that at all. And with a proper blockchain-based digital identity, the amount of saving and speed of business can change majorly. So we are on the way to build that. We are cooperating with people, discussing with people who already came up with concepts, ideas in a couple different setups. So these are the three main areas that we are working. Definitely, we will be also focusing on, as a follow-up area, loyalty, which is a very important area too.
Would you like to follow up?
That's where we are.
But very rapidly, I think the time is short. I think the future is here already. You know, blockchain is becoming a reality. We see a number of the banks that, at least in our network. I think what will be the survival of the blockchain is how you always also engage with the regulators and central banks. And we see those being closer to this space will survive. And the banks that are forward thinker, I think they will be faster in the future of this landscape, that it is very moving. I think the digital asset is a reality. We know that there are lots of interest. The price is coming up and down. But this will survive. I think we see lots of interest. So for us, the future is there, and we just see a growth in the coming years.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we can have some questions from Gökhan. Can we start with you?
XRP, it's Ripple. Its price moves. So who carries the risk when you make a transfer? Is it the client, the bank, or is there any risk involved in it?
In terms of the fluctuation of the price, and it depends. The banks are not using today XRP. Okay. What you see as a transaction is very much private individuals like myself and yourself. Okay. In the model that I was explaining in terms of you know, between the PSPs, using that as a bridge currency, this is a matter of few seconds, and the price is established already in the crypto exchanges. Okay. So you are much less, I mean, the PSP are much less exposed to that.
And my second question, there is a credit risk involved. That means one payment service provider is buying the XRP, transferring it to another payment service provider, which in turn is selling it to another counterpart. Okay? So if one of the counterparts says, I'm not honoring my obligation, for me XRP is zero. So
but
from then on,
this, I mean, this is happening in a really legal, contractual way. So you are not going to this relationship if there is no agreement pre-advance.
May I chip in? I think there's a big difference between XRP as peer-to-peer money transfer medium, as a crypto asset, versus what Ripple is offering banks like ourselves and which we are using on fiat currency. So we are using fiat currency as a bank when we are transferring money. So we are not exposed to that discussion. There's a liquidity issue, obviously, but this is a one-to-one agreement between banks. As you rightfully said, there's a credibility. Do I have balances enough to honor that payment because I'm just transmitting that, right? So that is an agreement between, multi-party agreements between banks. XRP is peer-to-peer, individual to individual, which is a totally different story.
Yes, indeed.
So you're not exposed to those fluctuations.
No, exactly.
In the price.
The current solution that the banks use is exactly based on the commercial agreement that exists between the banks. I think this subject is very much for retails.
Thank you. So any other questions? There's a gentleman over there.
Hi. This is Cihat Kahraman. I'm the co-founder of a startup called Hangar Lab. We develop industrial augmented reality platform. My question is for gentlemen from Akbank. Lower transaction costs, it all sounds good as a perspective of a consumer. What Akbank wants to achieve as integrating with blockchain technology? What is blockchain technology in your business model?
I think in overall, as we are sitting today, the banks has lots of efficiency gains, potential efficiency gains. At the moment, the business model that most banks operate on is very heavy, on a high cost base, and I'm saying this as Akbank because we are one of the global leaders in cost-income ratio. So we are very fit already. And this is our strong side. This also explains why Akbank is interested in blockchain, because it's going to make us even fitter, more fit, more healthy, and being less costly in operation. Because as I said in the earlier, in the beginning of the talk, I think, do I need blockchain in my business? Is a question that you can answer. What is the cost of trust in your business? And in banking, the cost of trust is pretty high. So, like a bank like Akbank, which is committed to being fit, low cost, and always faster than others, blockchain is a very big opportunity.
Okay, this one, two questions. Royan has a question as well. Yes. Okay, so it was his question as well. Any other questions before lunch? Okay, so just.
Hi, Fırat Dürüst. I would like to confirm that I understand right. You solve liquidity problem with the agreement between banks, and how do you solve speed problem? Are you using special software of Ripple, which works in real time? That's like that, right?
Okay, yes. The liquidity issue is a multi-party agreement between nodes, and Ripple has other models for that, which we can dive in. Marjan can explain. But the technology, the speed is, yes, through the Ripple network.
Sorry. So you don't have to pre-fund accounts. You want to send money.
Again, please.
You don't need to pre-fund the cross-border account.
It depends on your agreement. It depends on your agreement with the recipient party, sender and recipient party, banks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So there's a lunch just next to here, the next room. So it's going to be 45 minutes or 50 minutes. See you again here. Thank you.